Hello and welcome to The Print. I'm Triya Gulati, and joining me today is the team of Amazon Prime's upcoming series Rag. While we could not have the full star cast, but we have Ali Fazal, director Prashit Roy, Anusha, and Sandeep. Thank you so much for joining me today for this interview. Congratulations and kudos for this project. I know that there was no official announcement that this series is inspired by the Ranga Billa case, but binge watching it, I could not help but think about the case because there are so many similarities, right? Last year in January, we were talking about the Ranga Billa case. It was in the headlines because a particular series portrayed that story through a lens of a jailer. Over a year later, we are again today talking about the same case because of your series. Prashit, I want to start with you. Why this script and why now?
So this, I just want to clarify, this script came to me much before, that other show was released. So I was not aware there was this show being made,
Okay.
There are many reasons for this particular story. When Anusha and Sandeep, they wrote the script and they got it to me, I was so fascinated by the characters. All the characters stayed with me. Although it's, in a way, it's a murder mystery, but it's also, there are so many other elements to it. Be it, there are so many other emotions we explored, like, identity, like, the identity of a person, like grief, like the criminal psychology. So all these things are fascinating. I felt really, when I was reading it, it really stayed with me. And we can't deny it's still relevant, right? There are so many other things, so many other cases which are happening every day. So we thought that, this is a story.
Do you think this genre is attracting you? Because after Patal Lok, I remember you giving an interview and saying that, I want to dabble with other themes as
Exactly. I mean, I was not.
But it happened.
Sucked back in.
Yeah.
We wrote such a good script, he had to do it.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
no
Which is
to
true.
it.
Which is true.
Another interesting thing about the series, which I personally found, was that, usually in Indian cinema, crime thrillers have a set template. The film opens to a murder happening or a crime being committed, and then a police officer, an investigator gets on board and they solve the case, and that's like, you get that ending. Your series oscillates between past and present.
Exactly.
And the actual thing that happened, the actual crime that happened, you only see it in the last episode. What was the thought process behind it? And I would also want Anusha and Sandeep, you can also pitch in, because considering that you wrote the script, what was the brain behind making the story be portrayed in such a way?
So honestly, for us, it was like we wanted to tell a story that we also would want to watch as an audience, and we wanted to surprise the audience, because nowadays we all are very intelligent audience. We can predict much earlier on who's the killer, who's going to do what. So the challenge was to tell a story that is emotional, that is still relevant, and still keep audiences like hooked. They shouldn't know when what is going to happen. That was the endeavor, to tell a very layered story, but also play with the structure of it.
Right.
And also the story that, the structure is the structure, the series that we have structured, it's not like who done it, it's how done it. How these two people in the first episode, these are the people who have done it. And it's only the process, how these two small criminals actually went on to do such a big crime.
Yeah.
So for us, it was that story. And also, you're talking about, the kids. So actually, for most of the cop dramas, they actually deal with only the cop, only the person who is investigating. But for us, this is also a story of the people, the story of not only the parents, it's about the story of the kids, the victims,
Right.
who they are. Because most of the cop dramas that you see, they remain nameless, faceless. They don't have character. We wanted to tell that story. So by the end of it, it's their stories also.
Right.
It's not about cop, it's not about the criminals, it's about those victims also.
Talking about cop, Ali, you're playing a police officer for the first time.
Yes.
What took you so long? You were so busy playing the negative characters. Police came very late. And
Yeah.
like, how do you feel about portraying a cop, first of all?
I mean, it's, in that realm, I think it's a lot of responsibility. But it's a very enriching experience, and also to understand the other side of, the law, and how things were really doled out during an investigation, and how an individual is involved, despite having a name tag and a bunch of stars and a vardi. I think the important factor was how much of your own personality, as in the character's personality, starts to come in the way or help that particular investigation. That was a very, very interesting thing for me to
And
delve with.
knowing the kind of actor you are, I am sure and I'm very confident that before taking on this role, you would have, and even after taking on this role, you would have done in depth, or you would have studied the articles, you would have studied the case. What happened, what was the scenario like before the case happened, and how that one case just changed the image of Delhi. It instilled a fear among the people, a fear which, I mean, that story, that crime echoes even today, and that is why this story, like watching this film, sort of gives you scared that it might just happen today as well. And over the years, we have seen so many heinous crimes happening. While studying about this case, or while doing your bit of research, what was that one thing that sort of put you off?
That is still happening. That not much has changed.
Yeah.
I mean, the geographical layout of the city has changed. Of course, it's inspired from a case that we've all know about, but at the end of the day, the emotions are still high, and people are still going through all of those things. So essentially, even though it's a period show, it's still a very, very relevant mirror to our society and how we have managed to preserve that emotion even now, as opposed to nipping in the bud, but we haven't been able to. So there's clearly something very wrong deep down within the ethos of how we are functioning today,
Right.
as a people. And yes, of course, the show has all elements. It has that thrill, it has that chase, two different timelines, and it's been shot beautifully and everything. But at the core of it, I think it's this very raw, unfiltered emotion, and the gaze from these beautiful people here, which kind of brings everything into perspective. So
Right. Any particular scene that was challenging for you, or probably that was like, I mean, I do agree that
yeah,
half of the film was very, very emotionally charged. There are a lot of moments where you feel the anger of your character. But personally, if I talk about you, were there any particular scenes where you felt that they were too emotionally charged, or they were challenging for you?
I think the challenging part was not just one scene, but I think there were moments where the character Jayaprakash Chatav, he's also reminded constantly during this journey of how helpless his status is as a being, as a person belonging to a particular caste, as those kids might have been in that particular situation. It's a helplessness that you cannot, आप उसको बयान नहीं कर सकते. You feel it, you grow up with it, and of course those kids didn't know what was about to hit them, but now we know, and we're still feeling helpless about it, despite knowing. So I think we are in a worse situation right now. Back then it was a surprise, and it was sad, and hits you with full force.
And mashallah, you were recently blessed with a baby
Yes.
girl. Congratulations.
Thank you.
But apart from being an actor, now you were on this project, but you're also a parent.
Yeah.
How did that play out? Like,
I mean, of course, as a parent, it changes everything, right? Like, it's the way you look at how humans and your fellow humans look at life and life force. Yeah. But of course, as a parent, I mean, anyway, it changes.
Yeah.
The way you look at things, the way you read and scripts, the way I engage now with people.
Anusha and Sandeep, this question is for both of you. Again, I know that all of you have said that this case has certain connection, the story has certain connection to a particular case, but it is not entirely inspired by it. But still, you know, if we talk about the crime that was committed, the details of the crime that was committed, how did you both decide to what to put in the script and what not? Because creating a crime is also, it's not easy. I mean, it can go both ways. It could be something very simple and it could be something very gruesome. So how did you both decide what to put and what not to put?
So, you know, the inspiration is a certain crime, but what was, you know, fascinating for us was the pre and the post of that crime. Because, you know, for us, the story is not about the crime. It is about how we lost trust in humanity, how we stopped trusting strangers. You know, so for us, that was the inspiration to tell the story, and that's why it's still relevant. You know, because all of us are so wary about trusting people in general. So it was nice to have like a baseline of something to be inspired from, but apart from that, it also gave us the freedom to explore the world in the way that we wanted to. We wanted to tell the story of two unhinged antagonists and a really hopeful protagonist. And that's what we were going for. It was not about the crime. The crime became like a easy base for us to tell our story, but it was about the characters and the extremes of any society.
Right.
Yeah. Also, this is story again about the hope. You know, this is the story about, like, of course, germ of any story, any crime story, there is a germ in real world, because as Ali was saying, that world still exists, you know, where we come from. So, like, you know, the kind of crime that is happening. The story that we like, you know, wanted to say was about the moment this country lost that hope, and there is a guy who's fighting for that hope, and now we realize it was hopeless case that he was fighting for. So it was that moment, that losing of hope.
Yeah.
And then we realized we are living in the lost world.
And Jai Prakash, the name also came from, like, you know, we want, and there is a line in the series also where, you know, he's told that tumhare naam mein hi Prakash hai.
Prakash
And
hai.
it was about him finding that hope to go on, and through him, the audience wishing that there will be a utopian world one day.
Prashit, we have seen that there have lately a lot of crime shows have come in, barring Patal Lok. Most of the films or series, they somehow fall flat and they are not able to resonate with the audience. And one of the major reasons is what they also mentioned is that from the get-go, you know who the criminal is, and then the story is largely about chasing a particular criminal. What would you say, like, you know, after this massive success of Patal Lok and now another film which you have done it beautifully when it you know, when it comes to the portrayal, what are certain things that you as a filmmaker you make sure to abide by while, like, you know, approaching a crime story?
See, Patal Lok was a different kind of story. It was telling this. It was the story of that time. You know, it was what, you know, we were trying to show, the mirror to the society. So it was that. Of course, it was about crime, but it was about many other things. Here, I think, like Anusha and Sandeep said, it is not about the crime. It is before and after the crime. You know, what happens, what drives people to do a crime, and what happens, who are affected by that crime. You know, it is also a story of that. So I think that is something which really attracted to me, and how, with so much of sensitivity, you know, the script was written, and, you know, I tried to do that, you know, in that same way, you know, how it was written. कि जैसे जिस sensitivity के साथ लिखा गया था, वही, it was very hard to portray that, but, you know, I don't know if it has happened, but that was my intention, you know.
Right.
And
did you consult anybody for the screenplay, like, considering that you are recreating a time from, like, you know, from 70s?
Of course, there was this whole team who was taking care of the research, you know. So because, I mean, they had to go through a lot of research to, you know, because we had to create a whole new world. For a lot of us, we were not even born at that point of time. So it was very important to do that research, and this whole thing was based on that research, because we had to create a whole new period, you know, for us.
Yeah, just to add to that, we actually, when we started writing the story, that, like, you know, creating especially 70s world was a challenge. So we had a team of writers. We wrote it over 2 years. The script, me and Anusha and like Ayush, who was a dialogue writer, we wrote it across 2 years.
Okay.
And we did like meticulous research on people, like, you know, the kind of crimes that India had and kind of people that we were, like, you know, kind of country that we were. We trusted each other, you know, building that, like, you know, you are in Delhi and we are in Delhi. Like Delhi is safe is like an oxymoron. We never believe it. Ki Delhi has been ever been safe. So we, like, you know, just to build that world. Well, like, you know, there was a Delhi, there was a city which is beautiful, where there was like, you know, animals, there was deers, there, like, you know, nilgais all over the place.
That
Yes.
dialogue really resonated, and you know, when they say that kash wo reh jate,
Yes. Yeah.
it
So
really
that,
resonates with you.
so that's so,
When
Balcony.
you and Nisara
Balcony,
talking
you
in
and
the
Nisara
balcony,
talking,
January.
you know.
Acha, acha.
That case also changed how people viewed justice
Right.
and safety, children's safety, and I think that fear stayed among people for a very, very long time. And just when I think, you know, you start to settle in, you think that, oh, there's a new Delhi has come to life, another case happens,
Yes.
and you know that fear again comes
Bilkul.
back. While working on this particular script, I want to. This question is for all four of you. In starting, Ali, with you, while working on this script, like, you know, you said that it sort of feels like, you know, even today that hope is still all lost.
Yeah.
But
mean-
working on this script, what did you feel like about, like, you know, the setup of 70s, how this case happened, and how do you on a personal level view justice and safety now that you're a parent, you're a husband?
Wow. Now my fangs are out, man. That's how it is. Because you want to prepare the little ones for everything. But I also think, you know, in retrospect, like back then, there was also not much visual medium to be able to also broadcast a lot of things. So we don't know. But of course, this was the one big thing that kind of shifted, you know, the plates, and that becomes your big template for the rest of everything. Of course, as years go by, you know, there's more and more reportage of whatever crimes that happen. So it's a, you don't know, right? Like, क्या उस वक्त ऐसा होता था? Did we not know enough? Or finally it happened in a very central area, and you know, it was, everybody just got to know about this one thing. But for sure, I think that was a big shift in the nature of the city.
This one case, basically, how, like, while working on the script, while studying about the case, even though no matter how much similar or different your story is from the actual case, but did it like change your perspective on justice, on safety in Delhi, or even in the country? I mean,
See, I personally feel, even as a woman, like, you know, since childhood, you've been only taught to be on your defense, you know, and you grow up with so much anger. And the more you read, you're so angry,
yeah.
you know. So, of course, a lot of it was part of the show. But I also deeply believe that there can be justice, there is humanity, people can be good to each other. And that's what we ultimately wanted to say. Because there was already so much anger within me, within all of us. We didn't want to end the series with anger. We don't want you to go back and only think about this. And we also want to have some hope. We want to wish for a world that we can still trust each other. And it is there. Like, we all have those strong familial bonds and friendship bonds. And we want to trust humanity. So, of course, you know, we're all angry, but that's not what we wanted to just leave the audience with.
And Prashant, on a personal level, while directing this film, were there any particular scenes that sort of shook you or were emotionally charged for you? But you have done, I mean, this is your area
No, but
of
this was
expertise.
difficult than Patal Lok. Let me just tell you this. This was very much difficult for Patal Lok because there's an internal struggle in this show, which is very difficult to, you know, digest, and it stays with you. You know, when you do certain scenes on, I mean, you know, with the actors, but that does not leave you. It stays with you and you bring it back, which is, although I tried my best to, you know, objectively see things, but something affects you, right? Since this is, you're going to release after the show's release. So, you know, there was this one particular scene when we were shooting on the boat where वो जो अस्थिया विसर्जन कर रहे थे, you know, on so Amir sir and Sonali ma'am, they were in a different boat, and we were shooting from a different boat because the camera was there. And right around that scene, when that scene was happening, you know, when I called cut, I saw all the people in this boat. They were having tears in their eyes, including our DOP. You know, he was, and we didn't realize, you know, because we were all focusing on the monitor. We didn't realize when, you know, tears came out.
And when you and this question is for all three of you, when you actually started working on this project, how did you think of Ali to play a cop, considering that he has, you know, played a lot of negative characters on screen? Did you think that, like, I want to understand, how did you think of him to play this character?
Lot of negative characters.
Repeatedly one.
I know. Yeah.
You know, I'm a fan of Ali since I'm sure he's tired of hearing this, but since 3 Idiots. So the Ali that I know is not a negative character, you know.
Right.
I mean, of course, we all had a discussion, and one thing about Jaiprakash is because he's struggling so much, we thought Ali would be so beautifully cast as this like a large person who is going to feel so vulnerable, right? Like, you know, because you already, when he's Guddu Bhaiya, he's like huge, he's towering, you're scared of him.
Exactly. So
And
to see that same person, you know, be so vulnerable, struggle, and you can see that his character is struggling, and kudos to you, you have portrayed it so beautifully that you are, as an audience, you are able to connect with Jaiprakash, you are able to feel that, you know, he wants to help, but he feels like he doesn't have the power, and he has done a fantastic job in portraying that. But I was like quite surprised that, you know, how would you guys think of casting him?
What can we say? Ali is just a great actor, you know. So.
Yeah, actually.
And also, sorry.
Please,
Yeah.
So, see, like we never imagined Jaiprakash Jadhav to be a very large, not large as in personality-wise, very like, you know, big person. Normally, how you imagine a cop, like any cop that you see around, they're
Very
normally
macho.
very macho. Like, you know, उनका इमेज वह है कि थप्पड़ मार दें किसी को, कुछ like, you know, थोड़ा उनसे एक वायलेंस का वो रहता है. But we never wanted, like, you know, Jaiprakash Jadhav to be that character. So we wanted him to be very soft inside. And when we met Ali, we realized there is this, like, you know, good-looking person who has always played these macho characters, you know, whom you're calling villains. You know, he's always played those characters to like, you know, break that image and completely, like, you know, bring him down, and where he is like so soft, so vulnerable, where he is fighting with himself and with the world at the same time.
Right.
That was actually a beautiful thing about
It's like a massage chair.
Karan, Ali, proceed that.
I mean, we were always, you know, messaging each other for whenever we would see each other's work.
Yeah.
And I had seen a fantastic, you know, short film of his where he played, I mean, you know, this really complicated, vulnerable character. And I really wanted to work with him, you know. So I was I was looking for ways to, you know, cast him in whatever, you know, I was doing. And when this opportunity came, I was like, you know, let's just, you know, try and figure out a way to work together. And also the most important thing was we were looking for someone who has never worn an uniform before. So it would be really, really interesting to see, you know, somebody. And, you know, he's an extremely vulnerable, you know, person. And he's been casted in so many stronger characters, but there is so much more to him.
To him,
So
right, definitely.
that is the reason we thought,
Yes.
you know,
Right.
we should explore that.
Well, there's one more character which you guys haven't mentioned in the star cast, the mutton curries. That in itself is a solid side character.
Oh man.
For that, we should have Babuji here.
Yeah.
And we need the
He
mutton
can
curry.
he can only make only he can make that mutton.
That's
all,
true, and I'm sure. Coming back to your series, in the end, what would you think it is? It is a crime thriller, or do you think it is a film about a society that failed two kids?
Why don't you start?
Wow.
You say. You say.
I think a bit of both. One doesn't work without the other. Yeah.
We think it's a lot of things. We just want people to watch this series. We don't want to define it in just one bucket, So whatever makes you want to watch our series, please come watch it. You will go back with many emotions.
Right.
Yeah, it's not actually genre can be anything. It's always about hope. That is what we all of us are hinging on. That hope. This is hope is what the series is about.
Yeah, so come for the crime, stay for the emotion, leave with the hope.
Correct.
Ooh.
Oh my God, that was so good. That's a good way to end this conversation. Thank you so much for speaking to me, and this interview will definitely come post everybody has watched the series, and I'm sure you're going to enjoy it. Thank you so much.
Thank
Thank
you.
you so
Thank
much.
you.
Thank you so much.